Sometimes Darkflow decides to implement a few tanks that a lot of players have a lot of questions about of why they are in the game. And the two biggest contenders for that are the M24 Chaffee and the M4A3E2 Jumbo. And today we'll be talking about basically why are they in the game and what is going to happen here basically. So both tanks here are late 1944 tanks, so around November, December tanks. And the invasion of Normandy, of course, only lasted a few weeks, so it's still in the right in the smack middle of 1944. And as a result, they are technically tanks from the future if you're looking at the comparison of Normandy. However, the developers have stated that anything in 1944 is fire game for Normandy. So that's kind of why they're here. But that's not the only issue with these tanks. Because if it was just that, it would be fine. But the Jumbo is actually like the strongest tank in the entirety of Normandy. So not only does it come from the future, which if it was just that, then the player base might have overlooked it, just like the M24. But with the Jumbo, it is again the most powerful tank because of the frontal armor. And for some reason, most German players do not know where to aim at the Jumbo, which is, by the way, this machine gun port. And even in War Thunder, where this tank has been existing for years now, people still don't really know to aim for the MG port there. And the War Thunder has way more tools to check whether like your gun can penetrate a certain position if you go for the penetration analysis in the this section right here. You can check directly, let's say rank 3, whereas our Panzer IV-H, which is the best tank on the German side with the shell that we have at 500 meters, we can in fact penetrate the MG port, but not anything else, and it's not going to be a kill shot. You can penetrate stuff from the side, of course, even at quite reasonable angles. You can still penetrate the lower side plates. But these are actually rather difficult shots, especially with the much rougher terrain that we're talking about in the context of Enlisted than compared to War Thunder. War Thunder's ground overall terrain layouts are way more flat because all of the maps are designed for tank-on-tank combat. Well, all of Enlisted maps have all these little crevices for infantry to lie down and hide in, which drastically make it more difficult to get shots on and everything. Overall, even just to spot tanks, because tanks are of course hidden in the bushes and everything like that. You're sometimes even just relying on pure luck with the penetration indicator showing you where the enemy tank is. And people might say, hey, you mentioned the penetration indicator, and you're gonna like hover over the entire tank to see where you can penetrate. However, if the drastic maturity is going to be red, and there's only one tiny pixel basically going to be green, and the enemy tank is already facing you and probably going to shoot at you in the next few seconds, that's generally not happening. So, yeah, the Jumbo is kind of an issue. So, the question might be, what tank could possibly replace a Jumbo? And for that, we're going to go back to War Thunder. And the first contender would actually be an M4A1 with a 76mm. Even though these are technically not used in the invasion of Normandy either, they are at least not going to be overpowered. Because even though the gun is more powerful, the gun is not like extremely powerful basically. Like the gun is going to be about as the same performance as the 75mm on the Panzer IV-J or H. Meanwhile, its HE performance is going to go down compared to the 75mm Sherman, because 76mm Sherman had to use thicker shell casings around the high explosive filler inside of the HE shells to withstand the higher pressure of the gun, which led to a slightly less explosive filler, again leading to less damage potential with the HE shell. So you're actually trading off the ability to just penetrate the German tanks from any range, even if they're kind of angled, with the ability to really splash stuff with the HE, which would be a pretty fine difference there. But even then, we can actually look at the British tech trees to look for other tanks there. the main contender here would be actually the Firefly, which was in fact used during the invasion of Normandy on the British landing beaches. And you guys might say, "Hey, why are we looking at British tanks as American tech tree and everything?" But if you actually look at it, it's Allies versus Axis, and it is not exclusive to the Americans, because of course we also have all of the Enfields, we have the Bren gun, you have the Sten, Lanchester. Like, there's a whole bunch of British guns already in this campaign. So if we actually add a British tanker squad, that would fit right in. And this one is actually very similar to the 76mm Sherman in that the gun is going to be way more potent in terms of penetration power over distance, but actually it's going to be less damaging because it's a solid shot. Although currently in Enlisted, we are only using solid shot for the Sherman and the Jumbo. I would assume that if they made a change like this, they would be adding the APHE shell for the Sherman, which would make it a little bit more powerful to use as well. And this one again trades that extra penetration for HE strength, because HE again is going to be weaker for the Firefly. Even then, if these are not good, we actually have a very unique vehicle that we can take out on the American side, which would be the M18 Hellcat, which was very popular right after the beach landings because of its mobility. It was just very good at securing the beachhead, basically, where the invaders were landing. Very good at countering counterattacks. Think of the tanks that are with that counterattack. And overall, its high mobility 76mm M1 gun, which is the same as on the 76mm Shermans, are again doing a lot of work, and all at the cost of armor. You do get a 50 cal on the top of the roof, which I'm pretty sure the Jumbo doesn't even get. Actually, no, it does get it. There we go. So it's basically got to be the same machine gun stuff. It's going to be way faster. It's basically going to be a Puma on steroids, if you think about it that way, but it's not quite as fast, probably. And it's much larger and less nimble. So that would actually be a really good top tier vehicle for the Americans. Of course, it does not fill the same role as the Panzer IV-H, but for that same role, we already have the Sherman. And yeah, that's basically it for the Jumbo. But for the Chaffee, of course, it is the fact that the Chaffee is not going to be overpowered in any way. The Arbor, well, decent. It is less than a Sherman, and the Sherman already like dies to the Panzer IV-H's very easily. So that's not the problem. Its mobility is good, but it's again not going to be outperforming that of a Steward or a Puma, so there's no problem there. Well, its gun is very good. 75mm gun that is slightly less powerful than that of a Sherman. Again, it's less powerful than a Sherman's gun, so we're all good there. So that is the main thing with the M24. Well, it's a very unique vehicle. It's a very powerful light tank. It is in no way overpowered. And on top of that, it's also kind of large compared to especially the Stuarts and the Scott. So yeah, there you have it. There is not really any reason to replace it there, especially considering it's a premium vehicle. And premium vehicles have this one issue. Even though you can change the stats on said vehicle, for example, we can double this thing's reload time or whatever ridiculous you can make up to quote unquote balance it out, you cannot remove it. Because if you remove it from the game, everybody that bought this squad is gonna have a problem with the developers. And we cannot have that, so yeah, do not expect the Chaffee to be removed at all. And yeah, that's kind of just a thing here. The Chaffee is definitely going to stay. Even if it's removed from the store and replaced with another thing in the store, it's still going to be there for the people that already bought it. The Jumbo, very small chance we might see a different one tank, but it's very likely going to stay there as well. And then at that point, we're actually going to have another question. What happens if the Jumbo does stay, and what happens if we're going to get counter vehicles? Looking at the overall power level of this tank in War Thunder, and looking about how they kind of be using the battle ratings of the different tanks in War Thunder to kind of balance out the tanks in Enlisted for some reason, we might actually expect a Tiger 1 or a Panther D in the lineups here of German Normandy. And yeah, those you don't really want to see, especially the Tiger 1 is not going to be very fun. Tiger 1's frontal armor is 102 millimeters. You cannot really penetrate that from range with a normal 75 millimeter Sherman, especially if it's slightly angled. The 82 millimeter side armor can be penetrated, but it has to be a pretty flat angle. At least from this angle right here, like right here, you can already not penetrate it anymore. You basically have to be flat on. The only place where you can easily penetrate is going to be right here, where even from like this angle, you can still take it out, which is kind of a good place to shoot if you were ever to face a tiger in Normandy. Meanwhile, for the Panther, things are a lot more easy, because even though the frontal armor is very good, 130 millimeters, 140 millimeters flat here, again 100 millimeter on the turret, very good turret. We only have 40 millimeters on the side, and we have 40 millimeters in the lower side armor. So you literally can shoot like right here, and you will go straight through at this angle. And even like this angle, you can still go through if your shell doesn't bounce off. And the same with here, 65, 75 millimeter armor protection there from this angle. Like you only have to get slightly to the side, and you'll be able to get through. But the difference with these tanks and the Jumbo is that there isn't a glaring weak spot in the front. Like this thing doesn't have an MG port. This thing doesn't have like a weak spot in the turret. So that's gonna be a bit of a problem. Same again with the Tiger H1. You aren't really gonna be seeing any weak spots here. With MG port still being 100 millimeters. The turret, even the turret neck here is 82 millimeters thick. You are not gonna gain anything from shooting like flat on the turret ring, and even with that, that's a little lip on the top of the armor right here, which you can see, kind of overlapping there. That's protecting half of that turret ring as well, making it a really hard shot to hit. So yeah, you better hope you're gonna get able to get some shots in on that side armor if these two ever get added to Normandy and in Enlisted. And yeah, that is pretty much it to what I got to talk about. Kind of for the comment section, what do you guys think is gonna happen with the Jumbo? If it's gonna get replaced, what vehicle would you most likely want to see as its replacement? If it were to get a counter vehicle instead of being replaced itself, what kind of vehicle would you want to see, etc., etc. With that, I hope you guys all enjoyed. I will see you guys all in the next one.